Alright, last video we did our top 6 Western Conference teams, basically the playoff teams in the Western Conference. For this video, I'll be doing naturally our play-in teams in the Western Conference. Really quick recap, my top 6 or my playoff teams for the Western Conference was number 1, Oklahoma City Thunder, of course. If you don't think they're the number 1 contender, at least for the regular season, if you don't think they're going to land in the number 1 spot, you might be right. Maybe they don't land in the number 1 spot, but it'd be kind of foolish not to give them that number 1 spot. They earned it. They deserved it last season. I think they're still the best team in the entire NBA. My number 2 was the Denver Nuggets with the upgrades they made over the offseason. Number 3, I had the Houston Rockets with them adding Kevin Durant. I do think Houston is a bit overrated, but still have them as my number 3 seed. Number 4, I had the Clippers with their offseason additions as well. Number 5, I had the San Antonio Spurs with their offseason additions and with Wemby taking another step forward. Number 6, I had the Los Angeles Lakers. If I have your favorite team in my top 6, congratulations. I got your team in the playoffs. If I have your favorite team in the play-in, then congratulations. Your team is still at least going to have a chance in the playoffs and a chance to win the championship. Maybe some crazy outside chance, but if you're in the play-in, you have at least a shot at the championship or at least at advancing into the playoffs. The first thing I'm going to say, let's say your team was the number 2 seed last season, number 3 seed, Rockets were number 2, Lakers were number 3, and now I have your team at the 6 seed, the 7 seed, the 8 seed. That does not mean your team absolutely imploded or your team just sucks at basketball now all of a sudden. All that really means is your team may have lost 1, 2, 3 more games and they went from the 2nd seed all the way down to the 6th or the 7th seed. And again, it doesn't mean your team sucks or your team didn't get better or something crazy happened. All it means is you lost probably 1 to 4 more games. The difference between the number 2 seed Houston and the number 8 seed was 4 losses. So like I'm saying, it doesn't mean your team sucks or I don't like your team or think they're good. It just means they probably lost a couple more games. Getting right into it, I was hiding them back here. My number 10 seed is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't think Ja Morant's a really great leader. I think he's a cool ass dude. He's probably cool to chill with, cool to go party with, but Ja Morant seems more like just one of the bros, honestly. He's cool with all of his teammates. Memphis is a fun team. They're fun to watch, but Ja Morant doesn't seem like someone I would look up to and say, guide us to the promised land, Ja Morant. But with that being said, he's still at least a top 10 point guard in the NBA. He may be higher if you break it down, but just off Ja Morant's talent, just off of Triple J's talent as well, Jaren Jackson Jr., I think Memphis can make the number 10 seed. I look forward to seeing if Ja Morant's game develops more. He could still work on his three-point shot. He has a decent mid-range, but that's the next 2 things I think Ja Morant could work on is just his shooting more. He's a great playmaker. He's a great ball handler. He's so athletic out there. He can get pretty much wherever he wants to get on the court whenever he wants to. He finishes crazy inside. I'm a Spurs fan, but he fucking dunked on Wemby's ass really bad. It was after the whistle, so I like to say that, hey, it's after the whistle, it doesn't count. But to be fair, if Ja went up and Wemby just blocked the shit out of him and Ja Morant like fell on his back and looked like an idiot, as a Spurs fan, I would be talking shit about Wemby's hypothetical block on Ja. So Ja Morant's dunk, it was just fucking nasty. He posterized Wemby. After the whistle, it is what it is. It was fucking nasty. But off of Ja Morant's talent, off of Jaren Jackson Jr.'s talent, and just Memphis's overall defense, I don't think they have an insane roster defensively, but just their coaching and their culture defensively kind of makes them always a solid defensive team. They're always going to be disciplined on the defensive end. So really just off Ja Morant's talent, Jaren Jackson Jr.'s talent, and then the third thing, the last teams we would have there, I still have the Kings, the Jazz, the Pelicans, the Suns, and the Blazers. Quick spoiler: none of those teams made my play-in tournament, and I can't not put the Grizzlies in front of the Kings, Jazz, Pelicans, Suns, or the Blazers. I'm not putting any of those teams at number 10 in front of the Grizzlies. So off of Ja Morant's talent, Triple J's talent, and those other bottom feeder teams kind of being scrubs. We'll just say it is what it is. Those teams, for the most part, are trying to tank to get a higher draft pick. Zion is skinnier for the Pelicans, but I don't think that's going to make them a play-in team, to be honest. So I got the Grizzlies at number 10. My number 9 seed, I'm going to have the Dallas Mavericks. Here's our boy Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag looks great. He's an amazing draft prospect. He's going to be an amazing overall player, but he's 18 years old. He still needs to develop naturally. They're going to be missing Kyrie Irving until probably January or February, and that may be, it may be longer, it may be March. If the Mavericks can get Kyrie Irving back, playoffs start right around 420, so right around April 20th. So if they can get Kyrie back like early March, even mid March, if Kyrie can have 1 month to kind of ramp up and play with Cooper Flag, he's already used to playing. Even Anthony Davis, he didn't get to play too much time with Anthony Davis out there, so just get better chemistry with AD, get some better chemistry with Cooper Flag, then I think they could have, a solid roster going into the postseason if they can get that play-in spot. I think their defense is going to be amazing because you still have PJ Washington. Cooper Flag should be a really versatile and, the number one defender from the rookie class and just be a really good NBA defender. Even as soon as he comes into the league, you have PJ, you have Cooper, you have Lively, you still have Gafford. Klay Thompson's not a crazy defender, but you have Klay Thompson's three-point shooting out there still. They did pick up D'Angelo Russell as well, so that's really going to help them out in the time that Kyrie Irving is out there as well. Then they still have, I didn't even mention, Max Christie's a great shooter they're going to have. They still have Najee Marshall, Dante Exum, Caleb Martin. So the Mavericks can realistically run probably 8 or 9 deep. They could go 10 deep if they really wanted to. So they have a really deep roster. Their roster is pretty stacked. Anthony Davis is still a top 10, maybe a top 12 player. I don't know if he's quite top 10, but he's probably still a top 5, like 5 to 7 defender in the league. Anthony Davis is an amazing defender. He's very good offensively still, and he's probably going to carry that load until Kyrie Irving gets back. And I don't think it'll be a big problem for AD. Anthony Davis is prepared and he's skilled enough to be able to help kind of carry the Mavericks until Kyrie gets back. Again, I think Cooper Flag is going to be an amazing prospect. When people talk about Cooper Flag, it's all butterflies and rainbows, and I don't have a problem with that so much, but Cooper Flag, he's skilled in a lot of areas. He's skilled, all around in his game, but his ball handle is still a bit loose. He can get better at being a playmaker. He can get better as a shooter. He can get better at everything, but he's still very good overall. The main thing for me would be the ball handling, the playmaking. Those are the two things that I want to see him improve at. First, I think those are the two weakest areas of his game, and it doesn't mean that he's weak at those skills. It just means he's kind of better at all of his other skills, if that makes sense. But they were talking about running Cooper Flag at the point guard to start the season, and I think that would be, I guess, a recipe for disaster is fair to say. If the Dallas Mavericks are trying to make the playoffs and trying to go as far as they can in the playoffs this upcoming season, running Cooper Flag at the point guard would not be a good idea. That would not put them in the best position to be successful. If their overall goal is to develop Cooper Flag as a playmaker, as a ball handler, and just accelerate his development, then that would be an awesome idea to play him at the point guard. But I think it would be kind of a disservice to Cooper Flag to throw him out there to the Wolves and expect him to lead the team into a play-in seed, because I can't imagine, let's say Cooper Flag's playing point guard and he goes out there and OKC is just swarming him. I couldn't see him being a ball handler against an OKC defense, like a Timberwolves defense with Anthony Edwards or Jaden McDaniels just hounding him all the way up the court. So I don't think he's quite ready to play that point guard role if Dallas is serious about trying to make it into the play-in and the playoffs next season. So I have the Mavericks at my number 9. Number 8, I have my boy Steph Curry and the Warriors. Just off of their championship experience, and then Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, they were something like 23-8, 23-7 when Jimmy Butler got there to finish out the season. So everything looked really good with Jimmy Butler out there. They still have Draymond Green, of course. He's still one of the best defenders in the NBA, if we are just honest about it. They picked up Al Horford. I don't think that's a crazy addition, but people are kind of hyping up Al Horford. A lot of people like the addition. Again, I'm not crazy about the Al Horford addition. People are making the point, you're going to have Draymond out there, you're going to have Al Horford kind of playing the back line with Draymond Green. They both have really high basketball IQ. That's 100% true. So people are making the point. Some people I've heard saying Al Horford and Draymond, they're just going to be kind of quarterbacks of the defense out there and getting people in the right position and kind of calling out plays. And I think that is true. Al Horford, his basketball IQ will help the team as far as him scoring and rebounding and just playing like one-on-one defense and doing things like that. I don't think Al Horford is going to help out the Warriors too much. I mean, they still have Moses Moody, AirPods, Brandon Pozemski, Gary Payton, Jackson Davis, Quentin Post. So they're a decently deep team. They have a decent amount of talent they can put out there. Didn't even mention Jonathan Kuminga's name. I don't know how that's going to work out. They did re-sign Kuminga because they couldn't find a team that wants to trade for him, or maybe there was a team that wanted to trade for Kuminga, but the Warriors couldn't get the right package, or that team couldn't get the right package from the Warriors, and it just fell through. They weren't able to trade Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think Jonathan Kuminga hates playing for the Warriors or hates playing with the Warriors. I don't think that Steve Kerr hates Jonathan Kuminga or hates having him on the team. I just think Steve Kerr thinks Jonathan Kuminga is this good. Jonathan Kuminga thinks that Jonathan Kuminga is this good. So Kuminga was basically saying, I want to play starters minutes. I want to get more minutes and more time to show what I can do out there. Steve Kerr hasn't seen enough from Jonathan Kuminga and doesn't feel like he deserves those minutes. So Jonathan Kuminga was basically saying, I want to get traded. I want to get out of here and go to a different team where I can start. I feel like Kuminga feels like he can average 24, 25 points a game on a different team. And he's really talented. He possibly could do that. But that's kind of where they're at with the Jonathan Kuminga situation. So I don't think it's going to be a big issue. I don't think Kuminga is going to go out there and, pout or not play hard. I think he's going to be just fine out there, and they'll probably possibly trade him before the trade deadline. I think that's going to be the Warriors' goal. Last point about the Warriors, a lot of people feel like they're too old. I was making that point as well, but I can't just say a team is too old and then just stop talking. Warriors are too old. They're not going to win because they're too old. I'm a Spurs fan. The Spurs are my team, and in 2013, 2014, people were saying Spurs are too old, especially after 2013. Spurs are too old. They can't win a championship anymore. Then in 2014, we come back and we win the championship. So I can't just use the too old argument without kind of breaking down the whole roster and going through, going player through player. The too old argument is just lazy. So would I be surprised if the Warriors made a deep playoff run and won the championship? I'd be really, really surprised, but I can't just use the too old argument because that's a lazy argument. With that being said, I have the Warriors at the number 8 seed. And then finally in number 7, I have my boy Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. They did lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil, he averaged like 9 points and 6 rebounds or something like that. His numbers weren't insane offensively, to be fair. His numbers weren't insane just across the board, to be completely fair. But his defense was insane. It's not like he averaged 3 blocks a game or 3 steals a game, but when they had Anthony Edwards out there with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle's not a great defender, but he kind of closes out the lineup, and he can play good post defense and good team defense as well when Randle's locked in. But that lineup was just so long. They were so physical on defense. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's length was a giant part of that. Just his lateral movement, his switchability, his basketball IQ. And I think they're really going to miss Nickeil Alexander-Walker out there for what he provided defensively. He shot, I think, 5 threes per game. He was about 37 or 38% from 3, so they're going to miss his three-point shooting out there as well. Even though he wasn't high volume, he did help out the Timberwolves as far as spacing the floor goes. I think Anthony Edwards over the season, I've heard he's been working on his mid-range game. If he can come in with a strong mid-range game, he's already a really strong 3-level scorer, but we already know what Anthony Edwards does at the rim. He fucking baptizes people and just dunks in their face at the rim. He's one of the best finishers at the rim in the whole NBA. Last offseason, end season, he turned himself into probably the second best three-point shooter in the NBA on high volume. Steph Curry's definitely still better than him. There's probably a couple other shooters that are better than Anthony Edwards still, but he shot 39-40% on, I think it was like 10 or 11 attempts per game. So he just went insanely high volume with his 3 ball. he improved it, and he was shooting really high percentage on really high volume. I don't think that's the way for Anthony Edwards to be the most effective. Kind of like what Michael Jordan said when he hit the 6 threes against the Trailblazers that one game. He was saying, I don't want to shoot too many threes because that takes away from other areas of my game. And I feel the same for Anthony Edwards. I don't think he's going to be shooting 10, 11 threes per game next season. Just like I don't think Victor Wembanyama is going to be shooting 9 or 10 threes per game this coming up season. But just like Wemby, just like Anthony Edwards, they shot a really high volume of threes just to develop that part of their game and be more comfortable doing that. So if it comes to a game and they need Anthony Edwards to hit a bunch of threes and shoot a bunch of threes, he can do that. But his mid-range game is what he's been working on over the summer. So I'm excited to see how his mid-range looks, because if he really polished off his mid-range game, he's going to be an elite scorer at all three levels on the offensive end. So I'm excited to see how that's going to look. They have Mike Conley running the point. They still have Gobert. They still have Jaden McDaniels. So their defense is still going to be good. It's not going to be a pushover defense, but their starting five, or their best defensive lineup with Nickeil Alexander Walker, they're really going to miss him out there. Again, it's not his offensive numbers, and it's not his defensive numbers really either. But if you watch the Timberwolves play with the eye test, Nickeil Alexander Walker was definitely one of their top three best defenders. Gobert's their best. Jaden McDaniels probably their second best. Then Nickeil Alexander Walker would be there as their third best defender, but now he is gone. Last point for the Timberwolves would be Rob Dillingham. They're looking for him to develop quite a bit going into this next season. Rob Dillingham, maybe he's 6 feet tall, 6'1" or so. He's probably not even 200 pounds. He might be 180, 185 or something like that. But Dillingham is really, really skilled. He's so quick out there, has such a quick ball handle. He can shoot from the mid-range. He can create his own shot. He's a solid playmaker as well, but he hasn't gotten too much shine at the NBA level. Again, I'm a Spurs fan. We were looking at drafting Rob Dillingham. Was that 2 years ago? Whenever, I think it was the year we drafted Wemby. We were looking to draft Dillingham as well, and we traded the pick to Minnesota. I was really disappointed because I saw Dillingham on the college level, and I thought he looked like a really good player. He's probably still going to be a decent NBA player, but I look at him more like maybe an Isaiah Thomas type of player, not from the Pistons, Isaiah Thomas from the Celtics. Rob Dillingham's a little bit taller than that Isaiah Thomas, so he does have that going for him, but I feel like best case scenario for Rob Dillingham, I don't really see him ever being a starting NBA point guard. He'll be more like a microwave type of player where you can bring him in off the bench, and there'll be nights where he just scores 20, 25 points and just gets hot and starts scoring bucket after bucket. And then he's a decent secondary playmaker as well, coming off of the bench. So you have the Timberwolves at number 7. Again, if one of these teams are your favorite team and I have them in the play-in, that doesn't mean I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I could see the Minnesota Timberwolves finishing in the 3 seed or the 4 seed. They might even be the number 2 seed. I really don't know. But again, I see the Western Conference being separated from the 2 seed. I see OKC and Denver. OKC and Denver kind of in their own class above everyone else. Then if you want to go Houston, Clippers, Lakers, Spurs, Timberwolves, Warriors, kind of all 6 of those teams, or whatever that tier is underneath the Thunder and the Nuggets, you can exchange those teams however you want. If you think Timberwolves are the number 3 seed, I have no problem with that. If you think the Clippers, I have them at the 4 seed. If you think they're going to be the 7 seed or the 8 seed, I'm not going to say you're stupid or you don't know what you're talking about. That's just you saying, oh, I think the Clippers, whatever team, I think they're going to lose 2 or 3 more games than you think they're going to lose. So the West is going to be so condensed. Everything is going to be so tight. So again, if I have your team lower than you think they should be, or if I have a team higher than you think they should be, it's just because the West is going to be so condensed. It's going to be a logjam again, and that's really the reason why. It's not me hating on any teams or not thinking that any teams are bad or any teams are good. I just think all those teams in the West are going to be so talented, and it's going to be such a tight race once again. But please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 7 million subscribers. Please comment below what you think about these standings, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.